I've been doing a lot of reading recently, and there's two types of people that I consider. There's entrepreneurs, who are people that are obviously within a corporate structure, which I was in for several years, so I can speak to that too, that are trying to maximize what they do within a corporate infrastructure. And then they hit a glass ceiling like I did. And I think the first step, to go back to your original or your question, is you've got to have the drive, the intestinal fortitude, and the urgency to do whatever it takes within realm and with integrity to get to where you want to go.
Hello, Mike. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Good, sir. Good, sir. How are you?
I am doing quite fine, and thank you so very much for being here. I truly appreciate you. And you see, Mike, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, Mike, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see,
Thank
you are on this platform right now because you did invest it in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Mike, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Mike, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Mike. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a wonderful experience that day, and I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Mike that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your knowledge, your philosophies, your insight, the way you're offering your solutions, and the impact your work is having, these stuffs are beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, my man, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Mike is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to be selfish, and even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Mike. So thank you so very much for doing that to yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, man.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. So let's get started. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today, Mike, for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Mike, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness, ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Mike on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So those folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Mike, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Mike got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Mike, my man, over to you.
Okay. It's I always say life is never linear. So what I originally may have, thought about or planned, you know, life has hurdles inherently and forks in the road that you may have a plan and it goes a certain way. For instance, when I first was getting out of undergrad, I was going to go to work. And when I graduated, it was the worst year in 25 years. And we're seeing that kind of come back where jobs are tough and the economy's tough. And so I went to graduate school to enhance my opportunities when I got out. And I was encouraged by friends to do so. So I went and got my MBA. And after I got it, applied for 6 months in the two industries that kept gravitating back towards me. One was pharmaceutical sales, the other was staffing, and got very close with pharmaceutical sales. And eventually, staffing was where it ended up. And I worked for my first company was Oxford Global Resources, which at the time was one of the largest staffing industries in the country. And then did permanent placement for them. Found that to be a little schizophrenic because half my day I would be an account executive, so I would go out and get jobs. The other half of the day I would go out and try to get candidates for the jobs. So I wanted to do one or the other. So went to a company after that called Matrix Resources, and wanted to learn recruiting so I could learn one side of the house more than the other. Did pretty well at that, and I got in a position. Sometimes success can hold you back. Because when I interviewed, I told them, hey, I want to do this for a year and a half or two, and then I want to go over to account management. And we were making significantly less than our account executive counterparts, but I was the top guy as far as recruiting. So my manager didn't want to lose me from that side, and then take a chance on me moving over to account management. And so that was at an impasse. So eventually went to another one of the larger staffing firms in the world at the time, Hudson Global Resources, which was a spinoff of the job board monster. Worked with them and did well. Became a rookie of the year. I'm sorry, not a rookie. I was at Matrix, but a performer of the year multiple times, President's Club winner. Helped our company do very well. But I also realized that they wanted me to move into management, and it's not the jockeys that make the most money; it's the horses. So I was the horse in terms of making revenue for our office, and didn't want the added responsibilities of management because that was going to take away from me selling and helping keep our company, or not our company, but our office doing well. So I realized instead of making a good portion of money, I'd rather own a company and make all the decisions. And instead of having sand, as you mentioned earlier in your analogy, sift through my fingers and go to the company, I wanted all the money. So I went for my own company and did that and created a boutique IT staffing firm, Red Zone Resources, for over 15 years. We were profitable every year. We did well, and reached a crossroads where after 27 years, I was just like, I have done everything from a production standpoint. I've owned my own company. I've done all those things. And I was in a position where I wanted to start giving back and helping others in terms of whether it be furthering their career or being a life coach or being, someone that can provide some insights of avoiding some pitfalls that maybe I had come across and I thought could benefit others in terms of having an easier road, a more efficient road to get to where they wanted to get. So that's kind of a quick, oversight view of where I've come from and where I'm at.
And that's so beautiful. And something that you said that really caught my attention was the part where you mentioned that sometimes success can hold you back. I got
Absolutely.
that. I got that.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you are wanting to give back, that's so beautiful. So I've got some questions here, all right? And
Okay.
are you ready for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what is the first step to becoming an entrepreneur?
I think, I've been doing a lot of reading recently, and there's two types of people that I consider. There's entrepreneurs, who are people that are obviously within a corporate structure, which I was in for several years, so I can speak to that too, that are trying to maximize what they do within a corporate infrastructure. And then they hit a glass ceiling like I did. And I think the first step, to go back to your original or your question, is you've got to have the drive, the intestinal fortitude, and the urgency to do whatever it takes within realm and with integrity to get to where you want to go. And the term that they use that I've been reading recently is bootstrapping, where basically you take by hook or by crook, and that means if you have to get loans from your family, you have to take your own personal money and use it as collateral for a credit line. You have to work from your bonus room, and eventually you scale up to an office, and eventually you buy your own office building, which I've done all three of those things. You have to kind of, and you've got to subvert your ego, because sometimes you have to take two steps back in order to make three or four steps forward. Your income may go down from what you're making within a corporate, environment, but you got to do that in order to see the fruits of your labor. And I always say, in sales or being an entrepreneur, you have to be patient and wait for at least 2 years to start, as you mentioned, the mango tree, to start seeing the fruits start to populate.
Exactly. And that was a great response. And I got that. So, let's go a bit personal. So, what were your biggest early challenges, and how did you overcome them?
Being creative. For instance, when I first left the last company that I worked for, it's very common within a sales environment to have what they call a non-compete. And that means that within a certain radius, you can't touch or call any of the companies that you've had any contact with or had any, relationships with. Well, the problem with that is, that's very arbitrary and very subjective, because when you're in sales, you're literally trying to reach out to thousands of companies to do business with. Well, they can say, well, you've dealt with this company, so you're not that's something, and it usually is a year that's enforceable. So I had to reach a compromise and did that, and they let me reach out and deal with certain clients, and other clients were off limits to me. And the clients were not the best clients, in terms of what was there, but I had to be resourceful and, God willing, and knock on wood, a client that had been not the strongest of clients, but the year that I started working or was working with them after I left my company, they were a gaming company, and they had a rollout of a large game, and they were using the Raleigh area, their technical support center, and they needed over 20 people at one time. And that was a game changer for us during the first year, because we'd only placed on average for the previous number of years we'd worked with them, maybe 3 to 5 people for month and a half, 2 month stints during the Christmas holidays when people order games and need technical support. Them giving us that large project with that game initiative and that rollout helped give us the time to put our efforts towards newer companies that we had not dealt with, that didn't, compromise my non-compete clause. And again, it was being resourceful. It's thinking outside the box and, going to areas where I didn't go. It forces you to flex muscles that you haven't flexed, and to call on people that you may not have called on before, but to be more inventive, more creative, and, do what you have to do to make your company not only survive, but thrive.
Not only survive, but thrive. I got that. And that's a beautiful one. So, Mike, for folks business owners or entrepreneurs who currently they're going through some pressure, how can they make big decisions? How can they make big decisions under pressure?
I would. There's an old adage. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called "measure twice, cut once." Have you ever heard of that? And what that means is, don't make a quick decision. I think when you make a big decisive decision, You need to look at the pros and the cons, and you have to see the repercussions, not just in the near future, but the intermediate and the long-term plans of what you're trying to achieve, both personally, professionally, financially, and how that affects not only your way of thinking and life, in terms of the way you want to live, but the people around you that are working for you and with you, how that's going to impact them. And I think that's why I say measure twice and cut once, because if you take that philosophy and go, let me think about this from every vantage point, how it affects me, how it affects the person that works with me, how it affects the other person or people that work for me, and then say, what is the best case in this? What is the mediocre thing that could happen, or response that could happen if things don't go but so well? And what is the worst case? And if it's the worst case, how can we weather it? Will we weather it? Will we be able to, overcome the hurdles? And if you can answer those things and know that you thought of, and there's going to be scenarios that come up that you don't even think about that are just life. But if you really plan it out from every perspective and every angle and then go forward, you have to be decisive. You can't go in. It's kind of like playing cards. You're either all in or you're all out. And if you don't go in that mentality and you only put half the work in, or you're only half-hearted about your approach, we've talked about it before the interview. I think what you put out there is what you get back. And if you put a full effort and you put all of your resources towards something and you try to be good in terms of what you're doing for your company, for yourself, but the people that that are clients of yours, if you're looking out for their best interest as well, I think what you put out there is what you get back. And if you put out positive energy and you put out positive effort, that's typically, the results are going to hopefully be the same. That's what I've experienced.
Beautiful. What you put out is what you get back. Okay, so we have two more questions to go. So
Okay.
what is one self-care habit you never compromise on?
I would say taking care of myself. For instance, I try to, I don't always do it, but I try to eat reasonably well, get enough sleep, and exercise on a pretty regimented basis, because I believe that you can't be good to others, you can't give to others unless you give to yourself first.
True.
Yourself, and make sure. And I was always taught that everything should be in moderation. So you shouldn't do any one thing too much. You shouldn't kill yourself working, but at the same time, it shouldn't be all about you too. You want to create a regimen and, a schedule and a life of balance. And if you do that, it gives you enough resources where you can be plugged in and give your full concentration and efforts and concerted efforts to what you're trying to accomplish. So that would be the biggest thing, I would say, in terms of personal care, to make you more successful in other avenues and other facets.
Taking care of yourself. I got that. So finally, Mike, what advice would you give to someone starting from scratch?
I would say, there's an adage. I don't know if you've ever heard this adage. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And so that being said, you can have a great idea, but if you're not willing to work hard enough to make it happen, for instance, Ted Turner, his IQ was, supposed to be roughly 100, which is average. So it wasn't as if, you hear about other people that are coming up with these phenomenal ideas like Elon Musk, who's a genius, and other people that are successful entrepreneurs. Well, Ted Turner came up with the idea of cable TV and later cable news network, which is CNN. And he was just very dogmatic about his approach, and he worked night and day, and it became a all-encompassing passion for him. And he was able to determine and develop what later is the forerunner of streaming. So you see where, and he stayed on it, and he became one of the world's richest men from something that was just a passion of his. It started out of a small TV station in Atlanta And initially he was running reruns of old shows like Andy Griffith, but he started finding other, viewing options. He bought the Atlanta Hawks. He bought the Atlanta Braves. That became staples of and I just think you have to really figure out what you want to do initially. And then you've got to be dogmatic in terms of your approach, in terms of your work effort, in terms of overcoming, as I mentioned earlier, not the losses, but the lessons that you may incur, and just keep fighting. And if you fight and keep withstanding the bullets that are coming at you, you'll eventually, I think, more often than not, be successful.
Beautiful. I would take that as a final thought, my man. So for folks who would like to reach out to you, Mike, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
Well, like I said, I've just started this journey over the last few months, so I'm still I've segued out of owning my own company, and I'm wanting to, like I said, create another enterprise where I'm speaking to great people like yourself, and wanting to do keynote speaking, and also eventually develop my own podcast and have guests like people, with people like yourself. And so right now you can reach me. I still keep my email active. It's Mike B at redzoneresources.com. And if you want to, catch me there, by all means, please feel free to reach out. And it's a good way to connect with me. And, I'm open to hearing from people, and I'm looking to continue exploring avenues. And I want to do more of this and share with people and help them be successful.
Beautiful, my man. And that's amazing. And that's what we need more of this, I tell you. Very, very important. So that's going to be the end of the show, my man. Thank you for the wonderful stuff you've shared with us, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. It was great.